DeFi Kingdoms, where you can summon heroes, trade with other players, quest, and fight challenging enemies in a fantasy world brought to life in pixel art animation. Command your legion, claim your legacy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's AMA with us, the DeFi Kingdoms team. Appreciate your patience as we were a couple of minutes late getting started. As you probably notice, we don't have Winston. He is mysteriously missing. He is doing some traveling at the moment. However, he is going to be doing a bout as well as there is a hosted tournament that we'll be running as well. So his bout is, I hate when I have to pronounce names. His bout is against San Andres and will be starting in just under 6 minutes. So you still have 5 minutes and 42 seconds to go vote on that bout. And then we also have the hosted tournament. The entries close in 35 seconds, which will then generate the bracket, and we can get in there and start voting. Currently, we have, I'm just going to call him my friendo because I can't pronounce his in-game name, Mellow Fellow, DeFi Purgatory, also known as Kurt Hokage, and San Andres again in that tournament. So that'll be up for voting here in 12 seconds. So make sure that you are prepared. And there's Dreamer. I can stop rambling now. I was actually just buying time. Just kidding. But so we have one bout. The second bout, Winston forgot what time zone he was in, so it starts after the AMA. But we have one bout and the tournament during the AMA. So we will be having a good time viewing those. I also just realized I got to update my tagline. I already set sail. I've returned from sail. I am back on, I want to say I'm back on dry land, but it's Florida, so it's never really dry. I'm just back on wet land.
Moist.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, but Bolon, I'm gonna pick on you a little bit. Like, who goes on a cruise northward when you live in a subtropical environment? When things are getting cold, you took a cruise to Canada to look at leaves. Is this correct? Is this what happened? You sailed in the Atlantic when it was cold to get colder to look at cold things. Is that, usually people go the other direction, but is that a good summary of what happened?
So I have both a serious answer and a sarcastic answer. The serious answer is that I wanted to get away from the heat because it is definitely not getting cold in Florida. So I was trying to go somewhere where it was less hot, which semi-worked, although Portland, Maine was disturbingly hot for this time of year. I was very confused. The sarcastic answer is old people. Old people are who gets on cruises to go north. I've learned that from my now firsthand experience. It's old people.
Are you old?
Apparently.
Are you saying everybody else is old and you're the only guy there not old?
Oh, yeah, no, I was the youngest on that boat by like 60 years. It was something. Apparently, I am old though.
I'm sure it's a great trip, but I did think it was a unique experience that probably all of us should experience at one point.
Yeah, if you want to take a cruise north, it's a lot of fun. It's really cool, but you're going to be on a small boat with a bunch of old people. So just know going in, and then you're good. You'll have a great time. But yes, normally people come my direction on cruises, go to the Caribbean and all that. But it's hot, y'all. I just wanted to stop sweating. I was just trying to get away from the heat, and it semi-worked. But with that, let's see. So we've got that bout starting in 2 minutes now, and then the tournament, the first round, will also be starting in 8 minutes. So you have 8 minutes to go get your votes in on that tournament, and we will kick off some spectating here in just a couple minutes. With that, and with the lovely update of my cruise, I am going to pass it over. Actually, you know what? Before I do that, I gotta call you back out, Dreamer. You said you like to start the sweat, but we had a very long conversation about how you turned your air conditioning on like 3 times a year, and I have never gotten over that. Like it has mentally scarred me.
Well, I mean, we live in different climates. You
Right,
know,
but you only have to turn it on like 3 times a year. I don't know what
yeah,
to do with that.
I would say that's an understatement. It goes on more than that, but it's only on for a few hours of the day usually. But if it gets windy or it's just been like a tough day, treat yourself to a little bit of AC. But definitely don't live in AC all the time. I will die. I think I like the fresh air.
Yeah, I just wanted to circle back on that comment. I've never forgotten it because I don't know how to process it. Like this week I might be able to not have my AC run in the middle of the night this week.
It sounds horrible.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a horrible, horrible place. Anyway, though, with that, we will roll. We will roll into some updates. And I'm actually going to be handing it back to Dreamer to kick things off with a little bit of a state of the realm address.
Okay. Got the blur going so you can't see how messy my house is. Got the hat on. State of the realm address. We're going westward to the land of Sarandale and doing a little history. This hat looks really bad with the blur, but great hat, bad hair day. Let's just keep this like that. So Sarandale, at one point we were, scratching our heads a bit on what the team was focusing on, and then it came out. They're like, hey, despite the bridge hack and everything, they are looking to partner with Finchia, and there's this new chain Kaya and a new token. Here's the plan, and we're cheering them on, supporting as they do their stuff with Line and stuff. In order to reduce costs there, as we waited, we did negotiate something where they covered RPCs, which actually is a pretty sizable cost. Upwards of some of the months there being like $10,000 plus a month. Now we brought down a lot of the activity there, so it got cheaper, but we also negotiated that the chain would support it. So it limited our costs there as we're in a holding period, but now we've been in a holding pattern for a long time. And there's still costs related to supporting APIs over there. And they're pretty significant. And every time people ask, what about Runway? We're like, well, Runway fluctuates because we adjust how we spend, both on what we pay ourselves, what we pay devs, how we market, and everything. We're definitely in cost saving mode as we look for other opportunities that are progressing. And one of those savings, I think we would like to apply to Sarandale. So that means more of like a temporary hold on some of the major features that I'll hand it over to Hubert and Bolon to talk about the details there. But the intent is to look at where we are having to spend, and look at where it's value additive to the ecosystem. And if there's any low-hanging fruit to save, we'd like to take it. This is one of those efforts. API costs are not cheap. More than RPCs in general, especially with how much activity that goes on. So trying to look forward and see how to cut these, and this is one of the areas that we would like to address, since we're coming up on almost 2 years with some unresolved things. So no shade at the Kaya team. We like them. We still interact with them. We hope for things in the future, but have yet to see a lot of focus on chain. I think they're mostly focused on their branding and some of their major partnerships, which is fine, but we can't be burning capital while we wait. So this is kind of almost long overdue, but I also think that we did our best to be good partners and make sure that features over there were good. We just like to pause some things to save some coin going into this next phase. Bolon, anything to add on how that would happen, or Hubert on is that all at once? Are these feature by feature, or what can players expect?
Yeah, I'll kick this part off, and then Dreamer, or not Dreamer, sorry. Well, maybe Dreamer also, but Hubert might have something to add to it. But I can at least kind of kick things off. So exact timeline and everything, we're going to nail down. We're going to communicate. So we don't have dates for you yet today, but it is not going to be like a everything at once. Obviously everybody will still be able to like, bridge their heroes and everything. So don't worry about that front. But essentially what we're looking at doing is a relatively quick phased rollout. So we're going to be looking at like pausing, summoning, hatching, and transcending to start with, as well as bridging heroes to Kaya. Obviously you'll be able to bridge them off of Kaya, but bridging to them, then we're going to look at, the auction house, the jeweler quests. So those things will be kind of like a phase 2. Like I said, we want to do this relatively quickly just so that we are able to capitalize on those savings, but we will make sure that you are able to, retrieve your assets. And then obviously, like, we're not deleting anything, we're pausing everything. So the exact timeline and details will be coming in the shorter term, but we wanted to go ahead and give you a heads up on what that will look like. So if you do want to start bridging your heroes or anything, obviously you're welcome to, but you're not on a deadline. Hubert, anything you want to add on that front?
Deadline yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the API is pretty pivotal to the functionality of the game. Like whenever a hero gets updated, we're using the API data to know like what its state is at, and like that determines if the front end thinks that your hero can be moved or if it's questing or whatever. So moving towards getting that pause is going to require some adjustments on our end. So that does, I think the easiest thing that we can start with is just to like slow down. Or like pause the production of new NFTs there. And so like you said, summoning, hatching, and transcending will be the first targets. But we will be looking at eventually pausing, the majority of the contracts that are there, at least for like adding to, like if there are things like getting out of, like that will still be available. But once the API is turned off, it will be kind of a much more simplified interface for that period of time. And I guess reminder, like if you did have any heroes that you'd bridged to Metis, currently, we may come up with a different solution for this, but currently the way it's set up is it does have to bridge back to the realm it came from. So if you had any that went from Kaya to Metis, that those ones would also kind of be affected if it's kind of further down the road. But we are looking to make sure that we have a good solution in place that people don't have anything that's stranded or anything while we're in that phase.
Yeah, we got some work to do on that front as well. A couple of things just from chat. So as far as the Sarandel Gardens go, so technically speaking, the decks will never be paused. That said, if our front end isn't up for it, it's unlikely to have a whole lot of activity. That said, again, you don't have to necessarily rush, although you're welcome to if you want. I believe, we already changed the gardens to be no penalty after like 24 hours or something like that. So, there's no major concerns on that front. It's not a long period of time. So, you can pull liquidity now if you want. You can let it ride. That's entirely up to you. To be perfectly honest, as far as Jewel locked in the jeweler, yes, we know we're probably just going to like essentially turn off the emergency withdrawal to let everybody be able to withdraw their jewel. As far as what it means for Jade, that is, to be fair, one of the questions that we're talking about as well. In the immediate term, I guess it does mean that there's not immediate utility for Jade, but that doesn't mean that we can't come up with some creative solutions. This is also meant to be a temporary shutdown, not a permanent one. So that is definitely still something that we're talking about as well, to see what we could potentially do to make sense for Jade. Sorry, I was reading a comment that made me laugh. Go ahead, Dreamer.
So a few things in chat. So some good questions are being asked, like, hey, we should move it to another chain. We should move it to another Avalanche subnet. These are ideas that are good to think about. We've actually talked to a couple chains on deal is on moving everything completely, it would actually be a lot of work to do so. So it's not that I'm trying to say like, oh, screw Kaya, we'll do that one day. If the right thing comes around, we'll consider it. And Jade is tied to Serendale. So all assets and IP there in its current form are still there. This is a pause to save us money in a time. If you look around in crypto, especially crypto gaming, it's pretty interesting. There's people that, are silent and have seemed to have exit. There's people that are stomping their feet and saying they're unhappy with the way, KOLs and other people acted during the space. And they want the next phase to be good. And there's other people, building things that are kind of completely different. So I don't think Web3 gaming is ever going to be dead. I think that we're going to come and go in cycles. In our current cycle, we need to do everything to save money so that we can be a little bit smarter than some other folks that didn't. That's all this is. We're being smart about it. Kaya's not giving us updates on certain things. We have IP that we love there, tied to features that are important to all of us. The intent is to look out for them. Just in this point in time, we're doing a pause there. So any major decisions of like what happens to all these things, well, that's more of a final decision. If this was a final decision, yeah, we would have to do that. But it's more of a short term during this point in time. We pause and we may unpause, or we might find a new place for it, or something hybrid potentially, within Avalanche ecosystem. All those things are possible. None of them are solutions we'll get to now. So in the meantime, we're going to cut costs. That's the mindset anyway.
Nice. So with all of that, there is an event that is coming up. Hubert, do you want to talk Halloween?
Oh, hey. So in case people didn't notice, it's October and we are getting quite close to Halloween. And traditionally we have always had a Halloween event. And I know that some people have been theory crafting, I don't know if that's the right word, speculating is probably a better word, on what we're going to do. And last week I did mention that we're planning to do something a little bit different. And yeah, I think at this point we have everything kind of settled and we're just getting it all set up on our end. It is a little bit more complicated, but we are planning to have this be something that is also intended to kind of help the next feature that we're working on, which I will also be talking about today. But it's going to be a transcendence event. And specifically, we want to see very specific heroes being transcended because we have plans to use those. And there, especially on the dark summoning side, there's quite a lack of heroes that were burned. I mean, there were some, but not nearly as many as we'd like to see. And also higher level heroes in general, dark summon and regular summon heroes, we would like to be collecting. So that is going to be starting at a date we haven't announced yet, but the rewards tied to that is going to be something that we haven't done before. Which will be a couple new enhancement stones, and they will be enhancement stones that do give some stat growth, and kind of in a different way that the other ones, like it's not a single stat, it's going to be multiple stats get growth on them, but also it's going to like guarantee a color change on the skins of the heroes for those as well. So you'd be able to generate unique skin colored heroes in both regular summoning and dark summoning by using those stones. And there's just going to be kind of a fixed amount available depending on how many heroes get burned. And you'll get those like automatically rewarded to you as you transcend those heroes. So you can look forward to that. It's I think the new stones look pretty cool, and the new colors I think you guys are going to enjoy. I did see some people kind of speculating on the colors, and they were pretty spot on one of them, but I don't think they were expecting to have there be two, which we're going to be doing. So, yeah, so that's kind of the, yes.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. No, finish your thought. Sorry.
I think I was just basically summarizing or just saying that's the end of what I was going to say. So go ahead.
Oh, yes, these are new skin colors. So stay tuned for the rest of the details. That will be happening on Crystal Vale only, because like we mentioned, we are going to be pausing Transcendence in that first wave of pausing activity on Sarandale. So it will be on DFK Chain. Pay attention for the updates. There'll be more information coming. Yes, these are new skin colors. What color are they? You'll have to wait to find out. Before we go into the next thing, though, I just wanted to circle back real quick because there was a good question in chat that we forgot to talk about in the first part of the update. Sarandale specific items, let's be honest, y'all mean Swift Thistle. We know, it's cool. Y'all really worried about getting your frost bloaters, right? Or your regular bloaters, I meant, right? As far as Sarandale specific quest items go, we will also be looking at solutions for that. Previously, when we had shut down Sarandale for the move off of the network that shall not be named, we had made them available in Crystal Vale in other ways. So there's a few creative solutions. So yes, we are aware of those. So that's part of the details that will be coming. So I just wanted to circle back on that real quick because I saw people talking about it in chat. I didn't want to leave them hanging. Hubert, if you have anything you want to add to that, feel free. Outside of that, will traits be relevant for the Halloween Transcendence?
Kind of, but not in the way that you'd think. Which I can get into more details here in a little bit, or now if we're ready to move on to kind of talking about the new feature that we've been working on for a while.
I don't know if they're ready though.
Are they ready?
I don't know. I don't know if they are. This is a big one, I think. Like, I'm really excited about this. This is something that you guys don't know about. This is a brand new alpha.
It is very alpha.
Maybe it needs to be like prophesied about for months and never talked about and hinted to and hidden scripture in the game. Maybe
I like that plan.
All right, no info, guys. We have a new plan. Sorry.
So, all right, let's do this. I'm gonna preface it real quick, and then I'll hand it back to you. But Hubert mentioned that there was a reason behind this Halloween event, and this feature that we are about to talk about is the reason. Well, part of the reason behind this Halloween event. I know Hubert's going to say this in his talk, but I'm just going to get it out there while you're all paying just apt attention, waiting for the alpha. Pet durability or pet combat bonuses, durability and enchanting are on their way. They're coming first. Hubert's going to give an update on that too. And then, there's going to be some time while we work on this feature. So just to get ahead of the winds, there's going to be some time. But Hubert, let us have it. Lay out the alpha.
Yes, there will be time. So I mean, we've been alluding to this for a little while. We've been saying we're working on what we've been calling glory and honor, and I have been careful to say what we've been calling in quotes this whole time because that is not the name we have settled on. We are actually calling it Ragnarok is the name of the feature. And it's directly tied to transcending. The whole reason why you're transcending is you're sending heroes to help in the army of the gods. Gaia versus the Void, and your dark summoned heroes are joining the Void's army. Your regularly summoned heroes are joining Gaia's army, and those armies are kind of in an eternal struggle for like cosmic power, and that's very, very much like. In Norse mythology, Ragnarok. So that is what we are working on, and kind of the idea with Ragnarok is it's going to be a ladder-based player versus player system where you will not be using your own heroes. You'll be using heroes that have been transcended, and fighting with like a ranking system and everything against other players. Against each other to like help in the struggle between the gods. And we do plan to have a leaderboard system for not just the players of the game itself, but also for the suppliers of the heroes. So if you are somebody who has heroes that are often selected, and I say that selected, meaning that actually people are going to have a choice in which heroes they use. They're going to be given like a small selection of heroes to pick from, and it will be kind of like a team drafting system prior to actually joining the fight. So people will be able to see what heroes are available, which will be kind of randomly selected from what has been transcended in specific ways. And if specific heroes are getting selected often, that's gonna lead to the player that supplied those heroes being bumped up on the leaderboard as like the top contributor to the armies of the gods. And that would kind of get back to like the question about will traits matter. I think people will probably pick the heroes that are nicer when they get a selection. So if there are heroes that have nicer traits on them, more convenient, useful stats arrangements, things like that, they're probably going to get selected more often than ones that are not that way. So, then this kind of gets to where we're looking for very specific heroes, where we're going to be looking, rewarding only those heroes that are combat ready at this point in time. So, the 8 classes that are available is what we're looking for. So that's what we're hoping to have transcended. And I think that's kind of a big overview of how it's going to work. The equipment and all that stuff is going to be kind of like preset in there. So it should be, for a new player getting in and wanting to do PvP, like it's not going to be the battle of I need to have the right gear and the right these things and the right those things. Like everyone's going to be kind of in the same playing field of, they have a kind of random selection of heroes to work with and build a team and then fight another player with the team that they built. And then, then it just kind of is like that's the game mode basically. And that, there will be a lot attached to it that we'll have to say and explain, to show later, but that's kind of the big overview. So you have anything you want to add to that, Bolan?
So I know like there's a lot of pieces and detail and exciting stuff that we're not going to get into just yet, but I am curious. There's a particular word that I'm thinking of that you haven't used yet. It starts with an M and there's a second M in it. That I'm curious if you know the word that I'm thinking of. That'll be a really integral part of how Ragnarok works.
Is it AMM? Is it a new Dex? Are we doing it?
Right. No, it is not.
Yeah, I think you're being too vague for me too. Like MetaMask, I see DFK Elite said that, and I'm like, is that what you're saying? But
it is matchmaking.
Yes, matchmaking. Yes, so it is going to have matchmaking. Players will have like an elo based rank as they play. They'll be able to get higher and lower in score, and we'll be using that to match people. So new players should be fighting against usually other new players or players that have lower elo scores, and those that are excelling will be fighting against others that will be excelling more often than not. So yeah, we do plan to have it be a whole matchmaking system. And is there more you wanted me to say, Balad?
No, I needed the word matchmaking to happen so that people would have the appropriate reactions. Dreamer wants to add, but what can he not say? I don't know. Let's just go for it. I'll just hover the mute button. We'll see what happens.
All right, get ready. I put something in private chat too, just what I wanted to say in case you want to silence me. All right, cool. Yeah, so if I share this from like a different perspective, what's high level? Like, what are we talking about? What is Ragnarok? In the last couple of months, there have been some questions over the weeks of like marketing and player acquisition and how are we going to lower barriers to entry? And I think that we have a lot of efforts there already in the past couple of years, and then efforts from community as well that are ongoing. This is another one of those efforts, but very, very different this time. So the things, if you didn't catch them on Hubert's overview, the things that stick out, at least to me, from on this topic of like, how do we get new players in? How do we get returning eyes interested? Because when we tried before, people were like, holy cow, game system is really cool and deep. It's competitive, but barriers to entry very, very high. So I can't really get addicted to the game system because there's too many other things I got to do, but prior to that happening. So how do we provide a game loop that makes sense to the existing foundational traditional DFK that caters to people without assets that are already kind of discouraged on crypto gaming, not looking to spend a ton, but maximizes the fun side, the hook, the whole point of the game, right? So the things that stick out are the players don't require DFK assets. This is a completely different playing environment. And that is huge for players because that's our primary complaint is like there are those that love that everything is tokenized and want to grow into that like World of Warcraft endgame maxi that so many people here today are, or maxi equivalent. But a lot of those, if you look at the day-to-day to World of Warcraft endgame players and you take that gameplay and you try to market that to somebody that has never played a game even like World of Warcraft, the gap is so huge, but they have a whole game to prepare them for that, right? We don't. So this is a step in that direction. So no DFK assets required to play. So then the next part of it that I think is really cool is when two players are match made and they get there, they're given choices of heroes to take into battle. And we won't go into a ton of detail on how that'll work. But where do these heroes come from? They're not just made up and made our whole economy pointless. Instead, they are burned heroes. There are heroes that have already died, that are no longer usable, that have moved on to this other realm, this realm of good and evil, this realm of Gaia and Void. And we have two burn mechanisms that support the Void and support essentially like Transcendence and Gaia. So now you have these two dead armies of unaccessible NFTs growing. What is the lore there? Why are they there? Are they going to come back? We've talked about like, what if we have a necromancer, undead armies? The question of, are those ever going to come back? Well, they come back through Ragnarok and they fight this eternal battle of good and evil, where us as qualified commanders are fighting for and behalf these armies as well. So now that whole thing is progressing. Now we look at, where can we drop this? Well, we can launch this on chains that otherwise couldn't support all of DFK. So a big limiter on our side of growth or opportunities is how do we access players on other chains without, a 6 month to a year build on gas that can never be supported with all of the tokens that we have to bridge. Well, we tried that with like a light environment on Metis, and it kind of worked for PvP, and we had other new systems. This is an even more compressed version where, okay, so then what would actually be on chain? Well, I think that there's a lot we can track for ELO, and then rewards, and working with the chain on rewards, and then dropping in tokenized rewards that you can only claim back in the full game and do the full connected gameplay. Oh, now we're back to traditional user acquisition. If we can convert X% of Ragnarok players to traditional DFK because now they played the game, it's been fun, they went through the season, they played without assets, but still were given and rewarded some assets that they can only monetize if they come into the game and use them and participate. Now we're walking towards a potential progress and exposure through an offering, limited barriers to entry, maximizing the gameplay, fun, good with lore, has a chance for bringing them into traditional DFK. But even if they don't, uses the DFK burned assets with some other fun ways that we'll share in the future to bring it all together as like our best foot forward as a new and improved user acquisition strategies, low barrier to entry, and also a lower cost on blockchain footprint offering that we could bring places that we otherwise couldn't with our traditional gameplay.
Nice. Very much enjoyed that overview. There was a question in chat about what chain. You'll find out. We'll see. There's things and stuffs. But Sorry. Anyway, yeah. There are plans on that front as well, but I think it's a little too early to share those plans just yet. So we will see what happens.
Yeah, and on what chain, I would worry less on what chain, because depending on how it goes, it may or may not be an exclusive to that chain offering. If it's successful, and we are seeing new players play it, and there are other chains. I will say though, it's not Ronin. We talked to Ronin. Ronin's having a lot of interesting changes. If you're paying attention, I don't know if I'm personally bullish or bearish on those changes, but they have a lot going on over there. Converting back to like a ETH layer 2 is very, very different direction, and one that I imagine they're not going to be making some major decisions on stuff like this for a bit. But would love it to be Ronin one day, and who knows, maybe Ragnarok will be a cross-chain offering. I don't know, but we're focusing on a few other things. I just want to answer that now, since we love Ronin, we love those guys. They're just kind of in transition right now. It wouldn't be wise to try to build something on a chain that is currently being adjusted in that way.
Much like when Klaytn announced that they were going through a merger, you got to pick your battles. Launching on a chain that's about to change is not always the best choice. Whether or not it is a new chain, I don't know. It might be, it might not be. We're still nailing everything down. And to Dreamer's point, it might be a multi-chain offering as well. So we'll see. As far as, actually, that's a really good question, Hubert. I don't know if you're prepared, if you're ready to talk about it. There's plans for this, and we're still finalizing everything. But how will potions work in Ragnarok? Hubert, anything you are prepared to talk about on that front today?
I guess I'll say in general, you're not going to need to have potions that you like add to the contract. But there may be some other things that we do related to that. So I'm not really that prepared to say too much about it. But yeah, you're not going to need to bring all of your potions, because it's you're going to be kind of jumping into like an already like equipped and geared supplied army. So the main thing is you're just building a team to fight against your opponent, and then with like removing all those other barriers to entry that we just talked about with Dreamer.
Potion transcendence. I like it. Awesome. So yeah, I hope that you guys have enjoyed this this alpha period here. As mentioned, there's still many details to come. We still have a major release coming prior to diving all blown into this, although there is some work that's already been done on it. So there'll be a lot more information coming. There's a lot of time. Feel free to start bombarding us with questions, but I don't promise that we'll answer every single one of them just yet. But you're welcome to try nonetheless. With that, actually, Hubert, do you want to give an update before we move into a few questions for the day on pet combat bonuses, durability, and enchanting?
Yeah, sure. So on the durability and enchanting side, I think we've tested pretty much everything there, and everything looks pretty good. On the pet combat bonus side, we just have one last round of balance changes that is currently being worked on. And then I think that will also be in a good spot, assuming there's no issues with those changes. So yeah, it's all getting very close. I had mentioned that we were within the weeks period last week, and I'd say that's still the case, and hopeful that we'll be able to, we won't hit any further snags, and we'll be, moving forward there. It does, with us doing this pausing on the Kaya side, though, like any new pet hatching, anything that has to do with enchanting and all that will only be available on DFK Chain and potentially Menace as well.
Nice. Which, yeah, I will say one of our upcoming AMAs will probably be more of a round table with an AMA section where we just make Hubert explain all of the things to us for an extended period of time, because that's going to be a really beefy update.
it's gonna be I'm part of the multi-sigs when we deploy things, and my thumbs are going to be so tired.
So yeah, look forward to that as well. With durability, enchanting, and pet combat bonuses, we will do a roundtable to talk more on all of that good stuff. Zan, love it. Million questions already. Start sending them to us. We'll take them in future AMAs. We may be able to answer them. We may not be able to, but throw them our way. Dreamer, I saw you unmuted for a second. Did you want to add something to that?
Nah.
All right. In that case, we will take a couple of questions today before we wrap up. I know we took a bigger chunk today for updates, but we had some really cool stuff to talk about, and I hope that you all enjoyed this. But rolling into questions, we're going back to Hubert, as is the right thing to do. Starting out, first question to you. Any thoughts on assigning basic class codices to advanced, elite, exalted class heroes to be able to use in the meantime?
Yeah, we've had this asked a few times in the past. My view hasn't really changed. I would say, I don't want to do that. I understand that, people have a bunch of heroes that they want to be able to use, but it does introduce quite a bit of complications. Advanced and above classes do have just better stat growth in general. So it would, by doing that, you'd kind of be also just relegating the actual classes that do have their abilities implemented to being second class in a way. And you generally want to be using the Dread Knight or the Sage instead of the other classes. So I think that would be an issue, as well as there's some classes that use weapon types that we haven't really balanced around, like Monk and Legionnaire and Dragoon. Like all of those use the spears and the glove weapons, Shapeshifter, like those. I think it would just introduce a whole bunch of balance issues for a problem that we created just by doing a temporary solution like this. And it's already enough work just to keep the balance in a good spot. I really don't think it's worth it to introduce new wrinkles to deal with as we're going forward.
Yeah, makes sense. Any thoughts on allowing tournament voting to happen before the bracket has been decided?
Yeah, so initially when we were doing the design, the idea with the voting is you're there with the tournament, you're watching it, and as things are progressing, you're seeing who's fighting who. You're able to make that evaluation and just then vote at that time. If you could vote on the whole bracket before it's even started, then you're just basically picking a side without really much thought there, and you could potentially just not even watch the tournament, but have participated in quotes by doing that. So in terms of the type of feel we were going for, the idea was to reward players that were there actually spectating, and moving away from that would reduce that. However, there have been a few issues, especially kind of recently. During the All-Star tournament, there was an issue where a fight went too long, and then people couldn't vote on the next fights connected to that. I think we've seen that happen again with another fight like this last weekend or maybe 2 weekends ago. So one way to at least let people be able to vote would be to do that. So I have kind of loosened my thoughts on that a bit. It might be a sacrifice that's worth making, just to avoid the technical issues and that could happen with there on that front. So we may do that. I don't think it would be that hard of a change on our end to make that work that way.
Nice. Thank you, sir. I'm going to give you a break. This next question is for Dreamer. I also want to apologize. I apparently just have way too many windows and tabs open, but I know my screen share has not been doing the best, so apologies for that. I've seen it lagging on my end.
Or poor screen share quality on my end.
Yeah,
Very
well,
poor.
I do have, let's see, I have 6 instances of Chrome open, and they probably have anywhere from 20 to 40 tabs per instance. So, I'm making my computer work.
Your RAM must be like
I have a
so
bad
low.
habit of closing things.
How many things is your
What's that?
computer doing right now that it doesn't need to be doing? Like, if
Oh,
it
so
became
many.
sentient one day, it's gonna come back and just be like, "I hate you. I hate you."
I probably haven't turned it off in 6 months either. Like, listen,
Cool.
it's a tool and I abuse it. Anyway, question for you, streamer. As we release more classes and content, do we have any plans on releasing a toolkit of like animations and art assets and whatnot for the community to create content with?
Good question. I think in the past there have been a number of notable builders that we've tried to work with. One of which was it DFK Arena. Is that what
I
it's
think
called? Where they were kind of building a game where it's completely different from the main one. And I think what we've said a lot is, if you want to build on top or alongside DFK, we'll try to find ways to work with you, highlight in the game, and provide assets where possible. Back then, I think it was very simple. I think the heroes hadn't been revamped yet, so the NFTs actually had much simpler like visual data on the heroes. But we had like files that we shared, and we tried to collaborate with, and also gave like official logos and things. We don't really have a kit ready. If we did have one, it would probably change dramatically every 6 months on kind of what we're using and what's available. So yeah, the answer is, do we have one of those ready? No, but if you're somebody that's doing a build, please reach out. I have an overdue call with Zealous. Zealous is always brainstorming things that he can build, and when we talk, try to find ways that can work together and support him. We have more streamlined ways that we're trying to improve as well. Traditionally it was more in the castle, trying to find different ways to highlight things outside of that. So if you are somebody interested to do something and you reach out, we'll see if we can find custom ways. But do we have a standardized like API like thing for design? No, we don't right now. One day it would be really cool to have one. That would be awesome if we do want to support people in building on top of DFK. I think it's necessary. We haven't seen like an overwhelming amount of demand for that either so far. So yep, that's the answer on that. What we've done in the past, what we have now, and what we're willing to do within reason, if there are things that we can help folks out there.
Nice. This next one I'm going to kick off. It's essentially asking if we have thoughts on using Joule or like custom NFTs or visages to support community built tools. Lila's Ledger was mentioned, but just anything, the wiki, that kind of thing. Realistically, as far as Joule goes, like, no, probably not, because we have a limited runway, we have limited we're trying to limit our expenses, and so it would be kind of counterproductive to then turn to that. As far as unique NFTs and visages go, that could definitely be an option. It is something that we've talked about before. Actually, we did a couple creator visages with Yellow Panther and Doug Hype. We had some plans to do some creator visages for some of our content creators as well. We haven't gotten through to those yet, but something like that could definitely be of interest, or be feasible. That's the one I was trying to come up with. Something like that could definitely be feasible. If there's 10 of you that say, hey, we'll build this wiki if you'll give us a visage, like, let me know and I'll campaign for it. So yeah, something on that front I think is probably more in the realm of possibilities. We don't have anything planned at the moment, but we certainly could. Let's see, switching gears here, I'm going to go back to Hubert for some questions. Would it be difficult to make it where whichever garden pools a player has seeds in get set to the top of the list when viewing gardens lists?
Yeah, I think that is possible. I think we have that maybe on Beetle's list already, but it just hasn't been something that we've prioritized. Maybe it needs to move to a zip list thing. It might go a little faster. Beetle's got so much combat stuff to do.
Makes sense. I like it. On that topic of potentially somebody's list, could we add gold to the common bases at the trader?
Yeah, I think that is also something that could probably be done pretty easily. And makes sense. Gold is used a lot in the game.
Nice. Speaking of visages, when new Visi?
That is a good question. I guess reminder that you will be able to convert actual equipment into Visis here pretty soon when we get to the durability release. So in a way, there will be quite a few new Visis coming up. But yeah, as far as like specifically, for sale Visis, we don't have anything to announce at this moment.
Nice. So we had 2 questions left, but one of them is what's next after our next big release, and we I think talked pretty in depth about that. So timing works out beautifully. I'm going to throw our last question of the day over to Dreamer. Dreamer, can you speak more on the reasoning and hopeful outcome of reaching out to potentially teaming up with another gaming studio, as you mentioned last week?
Ooh, is this going to flow into my closing comments? Maybe I'll turn the camera on. Well, so I understand the broad question, or the broad topic, but what's the actual question?
Can you speak more on the reasoning and hopeful outcome? That is the question, but I guess just what are we looking for? What are we hoping? Like, why are we looking to potentially partner with another gaming studio?
Got it. So 2 things: money, and money to build what we're currently building, which we've our last real injection has been almost 2 years now. At least the agreement, the injections came over time with the Metis build, which I think we struck in February. And then we stopped selling. We've been reducing selling after that and stopped. I don't know now, the year. I don't know exactly how long it's been since selling Jewel and then others, but we need money. We need money to pay for fixed costs. We need money for certain things. The team sacrifices a lot, provides a lot of services like for sweat equity and for like free. But there are other services that are hard to really get quality without paying something. So capital injection can come in different ways. Maybe a chain has money and wants a presence there in exchange for users and things built like we've done in the past. Currently, there's not a lot of chains with budgets or interest in gaming for that to that extent that would be required for us to make it worth it. What are other options? The other options are traditional funding. But traditional funding that comes from a strategic partner source. So why game studio and not just going to a bunch of VCs and saying, here's what we have, here's where we've been, here's our plan to use your money to get us back to that point, blah, blah, blah. A lot of VCs have been burnt by plans like that or worse. And so of the games and communities and kind of, raising money actually was the cause of a lot of games not making it, is one opinion that I have. If you look at how decisions were made after that. So a strategic partner is a game studio who sees and understands the potential, who's built games in the past with onboarding and brand awareness and marketing areas that we haven't yet been wildly successful on. There's a strategic partnership there. So if we find a game studio that 1 has capital, 2 interest to build in the space, and then 3 sees our value and sees how they can bring additional services or quality to our team and ecosystem that we haven't had budget to focus on. That's kind of money to keep building. That's helping progress the space of gaming, blockchain gaming, but it's also taking expertise that we don't have that we otherwise would have to just raise money and pay for to be right there with a strategic partner. So I didn't quite understand the specifics of the question, but hopefully that spoke to it on like why we would be pursuing something with a game studio. It's not only money, but it's that like expertise to bring what we have to offer and what a potential studio has to offer, and then make it an even better like partnership for the community and the players, if that is even out there. But that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, I think that was the gist of the question that they were going for. And if not, ask her of that question. Send us a follow-up question. With that, though, we can go into wrap up. Dreamer, do you want to just parlay that straight into final thoughts?
Yes, I wrap. I think just back on the Ragnarok topic, if you think about
Wait,
like
I thought you were doing this as a rap. I wanted to hear you rap.
I think didn't Fox rap like way back in the day.
Yeah, he did. I forgot about that. We're gonna have to go find that. Anyway, sorry, carry on.
Like Hearthstone and other games, they've found ways. So like Hearthstone, if you compare it, in order to play, you needed to kind of always have a competitive deck. Similar to like in order to play DFK today, you needed to have like a series of heroes or equipment and potions and things. And there are people that love that. But then there was another subset that didn't. So they made, I don't know what it's called, Hearthstone Wild or something, where you just like, hey, you don't need a deck. That's your biggest reason why you're no longer playing. You don't need a deck. Hop in. This is a fun new way that's completely different, but also feeds into the overall game. And that was successful. And we saw that complete different other forms of games like team fight tactics is something where you don't have to like just choose one hero. You go in there and it's kind of like a queue, and there's a little bit of RNG in there and a little bit of strategy. So if for any of folks, I just wanted to add, like, if you heard a lot of words and didn't really get what Ragnarok is, there's some examples of how it may compare in terms of user acquisition, lower barriers to entry, different play mode, expanding our reach, making it easier to provide the game offerings on chain still, but to other ecosystems that aren't supported by DFK, full offering. There's a lot of reasons there. So I just hope that one of those spoke to you. In order to make DFK not only survive these cycles, but grow, we need to adjust our offering. And we've been doing that over the last couple of years. It's a moving target and an industry that's hard to find what the right thing would be. I think this is a really good attempt to address a number of the concerns or feedback that we've gotten over the last couple of years. So just like in when we were focusing on year of the game and everything, major feedback was, gamifying stuff isn't enough. We want a playable game. And like, well, we do too. So we progressed that. And now we have arguably one of the most connected, blockchain connected playable games out there, deeply strategic as well, blockchain or not. Where do we go from there? Well, it's too hard to play, too hard to get started. All right, let's make it easy and give you no reason not to hop in, especially if it's fun, quick. There's an ELO system there so they can build the ranks or climb the ranks, and rewards from that native chain to incentivize those already on that chain with our own rewards that may pull you into the traditional game. Ragnarok, it's a good idea. We're going to continue to develop it. If you have questions on it, please submit them. If you have suggestions and things, we're always, our ears are always open on trying to get to the best idea. But the intent here is new player bases, lower barriers to entry, applying to our additional IP and tech, and being able to scale from there. So just wanted to wrap it up with my opinion on that, because if it didn't sink in, just wanted to make that be the last thing that does. Back to you, Bolan.
Very nice. Thank you. Thank you, sir. I'll just say, as always, thank you, everybody, for being here, listening live, watching the recording later. Special shout out to those who do submit questions for us to answer every week. You can submit your questions in the AMA questions channel in Discord. And I believe there's 1 week left on the talk site, but I would recommend just go ahead and transition over to the AMA questions channel in Discord. We appreciate all of you. Thank you to Dreamer and Hubert for being up here and taking the time out of their day to do this AMA. Special shout out to Winston, wherever he may be. We'll see you probably next week, I imagine. But thank you for organizing the bouts and the tournament nonetheless. Shout out to everybody who participated in that tournament, and San Andres, who also participated in a bout. Congratulations to Mellow Fellow taking home the victory in that tournament. Lovely to be back. I missed you all. Glad to be here. And Hubert, over to you. Any final thoughts? And you get the privilege today.
Oh boy. I excited to finally be able to, say the word Ragnarok. It's been tough to kind of keep that under wraps. We've been talking about it for a long time and working towards it. I'm hopeful that this Halloween event will drive a lot of activity for providing those heroes for the upcoming feature. So look forward to seeing all of your guys' engagement in that. I think you'll enjoy the unique enhancement stones that will be available. Reminder that those will be only during the event that you'll be able to get them. So there will be a limited supply just based on how many people burn, and there really is like a top end limited supply as well. Like if we meet the quota on every single hero, then that will be completely it. But I guess we'll see. It would be awesome if we met that quota. But so really looking forward to that. Also, I think the pet combat bonuses and all the durability stuff, enchanting, all of that's going to really shake up the game and everything that's involved there. So just looking forward to seeing how that changes everything. So it's all coming together. So with that said, I continue to be bullish.
Bullish. I don't know if Dreamer knows he's muted or not.
Bullish.
Thank you all, and we will see you next week.
DeFi Kingdoms, where you can summon heroes, trade with other players, quest, and fight challenging enemies in a fantasy world brought to life in pixel art animation. Command your legion, claim your legacy.